What's up guys, ChasingLamely here, and for what I believe is the first time on the channel, we're doing an experiment today. It's a very straightforward experiment. I have basically reset the English leagues. So all of the top 6 tiers of English football, I've put the teams in alphabetical order. And we're going to let the game run it through and sim it, and we're going to see how things end up. So, I'm going to do an intro thing. It's literally just covering up the fact that I'm useless at editing cuts. Enjoy this intro. Back in a sec. So the first thing you'll probably notice is my face is missing from the corner of the screen. That's because this is going to take a lot of holidaying. I'm going to be recording it over a couple of days, and I like to hide, continuity. Anyway, irrelevant talk. Let's see what we've got here. So, as I said, we have essentially flipped the... Well, I say flipped the English leagues. We've alphabetized the English leagues. So you can see there, all of the teams in the English leagues are in order. So, first of course, we start with the Premier League. You've got Accrington, Wimbledon, Aldershot. Wimbledon, by the way, because they are AFC Wimbledon, they snuck in there. Aldershot, Alfreton, Altrincham, Arsenal, Ashton, Aston Villa, Barnet, Barnsley, Barrow, Bath, Billericay, Birmingham, Blackburn, Blackpool, Blythe, Bolton, Borehamwood, and Boston. That's the first season of the Premier League for us. Let's have a look at the season preview, see how everyone thinks it's going to shake out. It's pretty much as you'd expect it to. Obviously, all these P's here are teams who wouldn't normally be in the division. Thus, you kind of expect Arsenal to walk the league. That's not a huge shock. I didn't even know it did the projected lineups. There's a thing I've learned today. And then you've got Villa predicted second, Blackburn third, Birmingham, Bolton, Barnsley as the top 6, and Blackpool. And then everyone else is kind of outsiders with these guys. Alfreton, Blythe, Bath, Boston, Altrincham, and Ashton expected to go down. As you'd expect, mostly Arsenal players in the media Dream 11, except for Jack Grealish, who has appeared in there somehow. I'm not entirely clear how, but he's appeared there somehow. That is the Premier League for you. That's what we're starting off with. In the Sky Bet Championship, we have Bournemouth, Brackley, Bradford City, Bradford Park Avenue, Braintree, Brentford, Brighton, Bristol City, Bristol Rovers, Bromley, Burnley, Burton, Bury, Cambridge, Cardiff, Carlisle, Charlton, Chelmsford, Chelsea, Cheltenham, Chester, Chesterfield, Chippenham, and Chorley. This could be an interesting league. Before I show you the preview, obviously, Burton have ridiculously good training facilities. I don't know if anyone, this is common knowledge or not. Their youth facilities are state of the art. They get some really, really good youngsters because they do their youth training and their training at St George's Park. They long term, especially starting this high, could be a real dark horse in this experiment. Anyway, do I need to give you a minute to guess who is predicted to finish top of this table? Did you say Chelsea? Of course it's Chelsea. Chelsea, Burnley predicted for the automatic spots, with Bournemouth, Brighton, Cardiff and Brentford predicted for the playoffs. Bristol City and Charlton and Burton outside hopes. And then we're looking at Chelmsford, Bradford Park Avenue, Braintree and Chippenham as the favourites go down. Chester, less favourites, more whatever. Unsurprisingly, the Dream 11 is, Chelsea. Yeah, I would expect Chelsea to win that league. We'll find out once we've simmed the first season. But I should have done a thing there. We'll edit that out. We won't edit that out. I don't edit stuff out. That's too much effort. The Sky Bet League 1, Colchester, Concord, Coventry, Crawley, Crewe, Crystal Palace, Curzon, Ashton, Dagenham and Redbridge, Darlington, Dartford, Derby, Doncaster, Dover, Dulwich, Hamlet, East Thurrock, Eastbourne Borough, Eastleigh, Ebbsfleet, Everton, Exeter, FC United, Fleetwood, Forest Green and Fulham. I did not anticipate how hard it was to read a list of teams that start with the same letter off. That's difficult. Try it yourself. Bit of fun. Anyway, a few big teams in here though. You've got Crystal Palace, you've got Derby, you've got Everton, you've got Fulham. Those are the guys you'd expect to be around the top. Obviously, we've just had a little bit of a sneak preview of the preview, but there you go. Everton 7 to 10 on to win the title. Palace and Fulham evens. Derby rounding off the top four with Fleetwood, Coventry, Doncaster, Exeter and Crawley predicted to be fighting out for the rest of the playoff spaces. And then we're looking at FC United, Eastbourne and East Thurrock to go down, which, you know, you'd expect maybe FC United to be able to put up a bit of an upset there. But the rest of that makes a little bit of sense to me, so that we'll see how that goes. Right, in the league, Sky Bet League 2, FC Halifax, AFC Fylde, Gateshead, Gillingham, Gloucester, Grimsby, Guiseley, Hampton and Richmond, Harrogate, Hartlepool, Havant and Waterlooville, Hemel Hempstead, Hereford, Huddersfield, Hull, Hungerford, Ipswich, Kidderminster, Leamington, Leicester, Leeds, Leyton Orient, Lincoln, Liverpool. Lot of snow blindness here. You're expecting Liverpool to walk away with this as a league. You'd expect Leeds to be up there and Leicester. You expect Hull to be up near the top of that somewhere too. See if the season preview agrees. Pretty much just what I said. Ipswich also predicted to get into the playoffs there. And then we've got Gillingham, Lincoln and Grimsby as outsiders. But you really would expect them to be outsiders. I mean, the golfing class bar between Ipswich and Gillingham, substantial. Hungerford and Gloucester almost certainly going straight down. Hampton and Richmond probably going with them. But Hemel Hempstead, Hereford, you know, there's 4 relegation places. Havant and Waterlooville and Leamington all in the conversation there. Slightly more mixed Dream 11 or predicted Dream 11 as well. Harry Maguire, the only non-Liverpool player there. Did I check for League One? I didn't check for League One. Let's do League One. Jordan Pickford makes the League One. Sarko and Zaha from Crystal Palace in there. Fosu Mensah from Fulham in there. He's a Fulham, isn't he? I'm not making that up. Fosu Mensah from Fulham in there. And the rest is Everton. Right, let's do the Panorama National. Panorama National looks like this. Luton, Macclesfield, Maidenhead, Maidstone, Manchester City, Manchester United, Mansfield, Middlesbrough, Millwall, MK Dons, Morecambe, Newcastle, Newport, Northampton, Norwich, Nottingham Forest, Notts County, Nuneaton Borough, Oldham, Oxford United, Oxford City, Peterborough, Plymouth and Port Vale. This league should be quite competitive. Obviously City and United are in there. Newcastle should be up at the top. Middlesbrough you'd expect to be somewhere near the top. Forest, Norwich you'd expect to get themselves in the playoff conversation. Millwall possibly too you'd expect to get in the playoff conversation. Looking at the preview, obviously just as I've said, City, United, Newcastle, Middlesbrough, Norwich, Forest, Millwall. And Oxford United are in the playoff conversation as well with Peterborough. It's actually quite a close league. I mean, even at 400 to 1 to go down, Oxford City aren't too far behind in the grand scheme of things. Bottom 4 go down, so you expect Maidstone, Maidenhead, Nuneaton and Oxford City to go there. But then, you know, Macclesfield aren't significantly ahead of anyone, neither are Morecambe or Port Vale. This could go anyway. There's also that mix of professional and semi-professional teams throughout, which could have a bearing on the whole thing. And the Dream 11, as you'd expect, is mixed with United and City. Down in the National League North. North and South, by the way, I alphabetised down to the National. I left everyone else in the North and South and just mixed them into teams that are in the North and teams that are in the South, because that seemed logical. Otherwise, it's just going to do it for me anyway. There might be teams that are further north than the ones in the North and than the North in the South, and vice versa. You understand what I'm saying. I might have messed it up. I've done my best, but obviously Midlands, with some of the Midlands teams and some of the Welsh teams, they things got messy. Anyway, in the National League North, English, good times. relax. I have AFC Telford, Preston, Rochdale, Rotherham, Salford, Scunthorpe, Sheffield United, Sheffield Wednesday, Shrewsbury, Solihull Moors, Southport, Spennymoor, Stockport, Stoke, Sunderland, Tranmere, Walsall, West Brom, Wigan, Wolves, Wrexham and York. This league, obviously, you'd expect this to be a league that was between Wolves and West Brom. At the top, you'd expect Stoke to be in that conversation and Sunderland probably. You might expect Wigan to get involved and the two Sheffield clubs. See what the preview's saying, see if there's any agreement in general with me there. Pretty much. No one big surprise. Preston maybe being a bit of a surprise in there. And then obviously at the bottom, you're looking at Southport and Telford probably going down. Spennymoor might get themselves in a mess. We'll see how that goes. The team is quite a good mix of obviously West Brom and Wolves, and then we've got Bojan up top as well, representing Stoke. Interesting that Rui Patrizio is the pick for goalkeeper, not Jack Butland, but we'll see how that plays out. And then finally we have got the Vanarama National League South, which is Portsmouth, QPR, Reading, Slough, Southampton, Southend, St Albans, Stevenage, Sutton, Swansea, Swindon, Torquay, Tottenham, Truro, Watford, Wealdstone, Welling, West Ham, Weston-super-Mare, Woking, Wickham and Yeovil. You're expecting Spurs to walk away with it. West Ham might be up there in the conversation with them, probably Swansea and Southampton as well. Reading and QPR you'd expect to be up there. Watford as well, of course. Bit of a mixed bag this one. This could go almost anywhere. Tottenham are the odds-on favourites. West Ham evens. There we go. Southampton, Watford, Swansea, Reading, QPR. Portsmouth expected to be in the playoff conversation, which would not be entirely out of the question. They can pick up some good results and these teams can start drawing against each other. Southend and Wickham, Swindon and Stevenage are very distinct, like top half of the table really, with Yeovil in there, and then you've got Sutton and Torquay, Welling. Good mix. You're expecting Slough and Weston to probably go down. As you'd expect, the best team is all Spurs except for Pereira, of Watford, and yeah, that's pretty much this. We'll come back with the full sim in a second. We'll see how things shook out in a second. Just want to go through with you before we do anything else. Go back to the top. I'll just show you some of the transfer rumours that are happening, just so you get an idea of where money is being spent. Obviously, in a league like this, you've got Billericay, who've got money. Arsenal should be walking with it. Blackburn have also got a little bit of cash to spend, so do Villa. So that could end quite nicely. So Arsenal are predicted to put a bid in for Sadio Mane, and for Jesse Lingard, and for Memphis Depay. Villa are looking at Aaron Cresswell, Kamil Grosicki, and for Alexandru Maritria. Then you've got Blackburn looking at Rajiv Van Lapara and Callum Patterson, our old friend from the beta. We've got Bolton looking at George Friend and Tyrone Mings. Birmingham looking at Anel Hadzic and Anthony Pilkinson. Another room for Blackburn looking at Josh Clark, and Bolton looking at Jake Bidwell. That's not too bad. Obviously, this is where things start to get interesting. The clubs that aren't in the Premier League lose the ability to keep hold of players, and we see things like Real Madrid looking at Willian. And yes, Chelsea are looking at Depay, Chelsea are looking at Livakovic, Bournemouth are looking at Jonas Svensson, and Burnley are looking at Eric Botteghin. Prague, of course, looking at a guy whose name I'm not even going to attempt. Or they're letting him join Bournemouth. There we go. We've got Mads Pedersen joining Brentford. We've got Taras Romanchuk looking at Cardiff. Simon Sakowski looking at Cardiff. And then we've got Sol Bamba potentially going to Blackburn, which is one we didn't see before. We've got Lee Tomlin looking at going to Sheffield Wednesday, and Callum Willock looking at leaving Benfica for Sporting Lisbon. always forget if that's Benfica or Sporting Lisbon. I think it's Sporting Lisbon. Callum Willock leaving Sporting Lisbon to join Charlton. You know, these will sort of possess your rumours of managers as well, easily looking to appoint Richard Money or Ian Culverhouse or Danny Wilson or Dale Brooks. Abubakar Kamara might leave Fulham for Millwall. Hans Mulder might join Fleetwood. CJ Hamilton might join Doncaster. There's a bunch. You can pause it. You can read these. I know that. I know you guys can read. You're all pretty smart. You're following the channel. You're of course pretty smart. Newcastle looking at taking Dominic Solanke on loan. We've got anything else big there? Nothing super huge, I don't think. No, probably not. Vanarama National, you got Jesse Lingard obviously going to Arsenal. Roman Saiz looking to leave Wolves for Man United. It's a very weird transfer. Phil Foden potentially joining Sheffield Wednesday on loan. You've got Serkan Serrera looking at Norwich. Phil Neville potentially assistant manager at Forest. There's a thing. Brian Dean potentially become manager of Macclesfield. Ozcan Yildirim heading for Norwich. Few there. Steve Morrison maybe joining West Brom, which is a weird transfer. They shouldn't need him. And then Tom Elliott from Millwall looking at joining Colorado. In the north, we've got anything big happening in the north. Robbie Keane potentially going back to Wolves. I mean, it makes sense at that level, but not with the squad Wolves have. Stoke looking at Gary Neville as their assistant manager and at signing Hamet Altintop. West Brom looking at bringing Jan Kirchhoff. Blackburn looking at Tom Lees for £4 million, which is ridiculous money for the National North. Sean McDonald being looked at by Stoke. There we go. We've got some going. Lucas Piazon moving to Sunderland. And in the south, Barcelona looking at taking Eric Dyer. Bayern looking at taking Serge Aurier. Mike Marsh potentially the next assistant at Tottenham, which is very strange. Anything else? Montreal Impact looking at Mark Oxley from Southend. Swansea's Luciano Narsing looking at potentially going to Sunderland. Brahim Diaz maybe joining Southend on loan. A lot of interesting rumours going on. Finally, before we skip into the future, the future. Let's go to the England squad and let's have a look at how they shape. This is interesting. Obviously, some of these players most of these players, in fact, aren't playing Premier League football anymore. The game does, by default, pick Premier League players for the squad first, or it looks at Premier League players for the squad first, naturally. And then we've got things like this. Chris Smalling, wanted by Atletico Madrid. Eric Dyer, of course, wanted by Bayern, Barcelona, and Real Madrid. Raheem Sterling, wanted by Arsenal. Jesse Lingard, wanted by Arsenal. Harry Kane is wanted by Real Madrid. These are all guys we could see move, and that makes the future of the England squad very interesting. But Ryan Sessegnon, who is being looked at by Arsenal, Villa, Blackburn, and Sporting Lisbon. Joe Willock from Arsenal being looked at on loan by some teams lower down. Obviously, Dominic Solanke we know is being looked at by Newcastle. There's a lot of movement that could happen. We've got guys like Jonathan Panzo from AS Monaco in the under-20 squad. We've also got Marcus Edwards from Excelsior, who I'm pretty sure doesn't normally make the under-20 squad. Phil Foden, as we know, looking at a loan. Benny Banningme looking at Wickham. A few interesting things happening all the way through the squad. And the under-19s, we've got Jamie Cumming of Chelsea possibly going out on loan. We've got Tom Holmes possibly going out on loan to the Premier League, such as the way things have shaken out. Obviously, he's currently at Reading. Boreham Wood are in the Premier League. That's going to put him up divisions. We've got like Samuel Shashoa at Baleares. He's made the squad. Guys from Borussia Mönchengladbach, guys from OHL who are Belgian. There we go. Playing for Nigel Pearson, which must be an absolute delight. I didn't know he got himself another manager's job. There we go. Learning new things together. Yeah, a few of these things could move. A few of these players could find themselves in different places. Anyway, we've just done a whole bunch of that. Let's skip through to the future. Let's see what transfers have happened, what the England squad looks like, and how the league shook out. We're going to be back in a second.
A few moments later.
So unless this isn't the end of the season, I thought it would be interesting to come back halfway through, beginning of January, just so we get a quick update and see what was happening halfway through the first season, because obviously that's where all the beginnings of the action start to happen. We'll see a few managers are insecure. Joey Barton's insecure. Simon Weaver's insecure. Graham Potter is insecure, which is a sign that we're going to see something interesting further down. Let's just have a quick look at the league tables now. See how things are looking. We'll have a quick look at see what transfers have been made and what the England squad looks like, and then we'll carry on to the end. So Premier League, Arsenal, as we expected, are top. Villa a little bit further down than we expected, but they're still very much in the hunt. It's closer at the top halfway through the season than you'd expect as well. Arsenal aren't quite running away with it. Birmingham are still in with a shout of winning the title, which, you know, although Arsenal are currently undefeated, that could change quite quickly. And the bottom end is pretty much what we expected. I don't think we expected Boston to be quite that low. I thought Billericay might be putting up a slightly better fight. Accrington are doing quite well. The Premier League is looking interesting. Top scorer in the Premier League at the halfway mark is Lukas Djukovic, which is beautiful to see as a Swindon fan. One of our ex players. Aubameyang's up there, and then we've got Josh McGuinness up there as well as a top scorer. The top rated player in the Premier League is this man, Alan Hutton, long forgotten I think by many, but there he is. Derek Williams is up there as well, and Jack Mahoma. Lots of clean sheets being kept by Andre Moreira for Villa, which is interesting. Lots of player of the match awards for Djukovic, for Tammy Abraham, and for Che Adams. Few interesting goings on there. What transfers have we had in the Premier League so far? Let's look by value just to see what the big ones are. Arsenal signed Andre Duda from Hertha Berlin. Carl Jenkinson's gone to Sassuolo, which is an interesting transfer. Floyd Ayite has joined Blackburn, as has Stuart Downing, which are interesting ones, and Craig Conway has left to go to Scotland. Anything else particularly big happened anywhere? A few players gone out on loan, but that's not unexpected. No one really making any big signings. I think Cabby, not really a huge signing for Billericay, but I thought he might be. Cameron Stewart, fairly interesting signing for Billericay as well. But nothing big movement-wise. Manager-wise, we've seen Craig Elliott has left Boston, replaced by Dean Wilkins, and Darren Ferguson's taken over from John Still at Barnet, which is a fairly big name for Barnet. So that is the Premier Division. In the Championship, we've got Brighton at the top. Brighton running away with things. Interesting, really, because Chelsea, you'd think, would just be walking this league. Interesting to know what's going on at Chelsea. I mean, they have got 3 games in hand, which means potentially they should be on top. So let's not read too much into it. Burnley have got 6 games in hand. They should potentially be up there as well. Maybe let's not read quite so much into it at this stage in the season, but there's definitely something interesting going on there. Plenty of other things going. Callum Wilson, top scorer in the Premier League. Chris Wood and Diedu, they're the top scorers there. Eden Hazard, as you'd expect, really the top guy in average rating. But very interesting. Chelsea haven't lost a game yet either, which perhaps does go to show they will still go on to win the title. Anything other, particularly, I mean, the Chippenham are doing surprisingly well. They were expected to be rock bottom. They're not at the moment. No one really big falling below expectations, I don't think, just there. In terms of transfers, James Tarkowski has joined, Man United from Burnley. So Burnley actually selling a lot of players. Charlie Taylor gone to FC Köln. Lindegaard has gone back to AGF. We've got Willian Jose has joined Chelsea. They've sold Danny Drinkwater to Nantes. Dominik Livakovic has joined Chelsea too. Burnley have picked up Johan Benlaune. Pearson has joined ATP, which is interesting because he was supposed to be on loan to Sunderland, you'll remember. Loic de Moor has gone to Auxerre. Chesterfield making a couple of good signings, Craig Eastman and Alfie May. Jake Evans going from Cardiff to Wrexham, and Ellis Miles has left Brackley. Otherwise, not overly interesting. Josh McCoy going to Chesterfield's a bit interesting. Johnny Placide heading for Charlton. Same with Alexander Yakovenko. Anything else going on interesting with transfers anywhere? Kalen Hines has joined Cardiff. No huge movements yet. Mac Verasanovic has gone to Bournemouth, and Venancio Montero has joined Burton. Caius Metz, I remember being a deal for something. I remember him being good on a previous FM maybe, or maybe was just predicted as being a bit of a star of the future. He's gone, so that's gone weird. Oh well, we'll go with that. But nothing over. Christopher Samba going to Burton, Fernando Navarro going to Burton. Burton making some big movements in the transfer market. That could be interesting to keep an eye on. In terms of management movements, Bernard Morley has left Chester and been replaced by Mark Yates. That's the only manager movement there. League One, we've got Everton at the top with Crystal Palace both unbeaten. Fulham, Exeter really making some strides above Derby and Coventry, where you wouldn't really expect to see them maybe. Forest Green maybe not doing as well as you might expect in a league like this. FC United are struggling. Niasse, Stockley and Mitrovic top scorers. Niasse and Zaha and Mitrovic the top performers, and Rico with 18 clean sheets for Fulham. Fulham fans will like seeing clean sheets. That's at least there's something positive. In terms of player movements, Mamadou Sakho has left Crystal Palace to go to Monaco. Stefan Johansson has dropped divisions to join Tottenham from Fulham. Aite, as we know, joined Blackburn. Ibrahim Cisse has joined Lokeren. Dennis Adoy has joined Tottenham as well. Fulham have probably got serious financial issues actually, because they start off I think with minus 60 or something in the bank. So they might have some financial issues, which is why they're selling so much. Alex Pearce has gone from Derby to Sunderland. Bobby Grant has gone from Fleetwood to Sheffield. A lot of sales in this division. A lot of sales going out. Aaron Wilding is the first big name to come in, well, the first name to come into the league, really. Alfie May we already saw. Julian Speroni has left Palace for San Martin. Scott Bennett to Doncaster. Scott Laird's gone from Forest Green to Colchester, one inside the division, really. Adam Endine's gone from Western Pride to Crewe, which is a signing I know nothing about. Australian one would presume. Looks like he's not doing awfully. Some good signings there. Stuart Taylor, is that the Stuart Taylor, the goalkeeper? It is. He's joined Crewe. Nigel Rio-Coker, Jonathan Douglas have joined Fleetwood. We've seen Mark Randall go away, leave Crawley for free. Anyone else big coming to the league? Denilson Carvalho has gone to Ebbsfleet. He turns out pretty good. There's a hot tip for you lower league players. Is that Phil Smith the goalkeeper? It is Phil Smith the goalkeeper. Can't believe he's been given another contract anywhere, but there we go. Ben Hinchcliffe, the hero of one of the heroes of the Stockport save from last year, has come in to Ebbsfleet. Amin Lingazzi has joined Crewe. Anyone else big making moves here? No one that really jumps out. Management movements. Who have we seen? John Flanagan left Curzon to be replaced by Alan Rogers. Mark Cooper left Forest Green, replaced by Michael Appleton. Sammy Moore left Concord, replaced by Lee Johnson, which is a pretty big signing for or management hire for a team like Concord. You know, he's done his time around the place and done some international work as well. Definitely an interesting one there. Let's see, we've got League Two. League Two, we've got Huddersfield, Leicester and Hull in the promotion hunt. Ipswich, Liverpool struggling. I mean, they've got 4 games in hand. They should be on top, but they've lost. Who did they lose to? Liverpool lost away at Lincoln. Awkward. Lincoln are doing very well though. When you consider there's arguably bigger clubs in Gillingham, Grimsby and Leyton Orient behind them. Bottom end looks pretty much as we'd expect it. We have got Neil Malpay, Elias Kachunga and Kemar Roof as the top scorers. Mooney, Bowen and Schindler as the top performers, and Lozel at Huddersfield has kept the most clean sheets. Transfers, what's good here? Anything good? Something must happen. There we go. Doesn't seem to like bringing up transfers. Right, Christopher Schindler left Huddersfield for Man United for 13 million. That's interesting. I think he's just gone as well. Has he played for United? I doubt it, but he's played some games for United as well. That's interesting. That's very interesting. United must have made some big sales. Samu Saiz has joined Newcastle. Depotra has joined Dinamo from Huddersfield. Benalune, as we know, joined Burnley. Lacey's gone from Gillingham to Wigan. Widowson's gone from Leyton Orient to Wrexham. Zane Francis Angol has gone to Port Vale. Nathan Cook from Green Gully, another Australian club, I believe. Yeah, he's made the move. Some interesting players going on. Nico Kranjčar has joined Lincoln. Maybe that's how they managed to beat Lincoln. They're taking some advice from Harry Redknapp, and Nico Kranjčar's gone there. Aaron Cool has joined Gateshead. Mamadou Kone has joined Halifax. Seb Hines to Gillingham. Troy Archibald Hendwell to Fylde, which is interesting. Jennison Myrie Williams to Halifax. Any other names I know? Shola Amiobi has joined Grimsby. Dwight Tiendali has joined Lincoln as well. Lincoln must have a fairly good squad. Paul Rachubka's joined Leyton Orient. Abubakar Sanogo's joined Gloucester. Let's have a quick look at Lincoln's squad because they must have assembled something here. No one particularly big like popping out, but they've brought their performances. Nico Kranjčar's actually been performing quite well for them, and Matt Green and John Akinde getting the goals you'd expect them to get. Right, let's have a look at the manager movements. Who's moved where? Gary McCann left Hampton and Richmond, replaced by Peter Beadle. Marcus Bignut replaced by Lee Clark at Guiseley. Matthew Bates replaced by Mark McGee at Hartlepool. It's a blast from the past. Into the National League. Newcastle are 15 points clear at the top ahead of Man United. Man United do have 5 games in hand. They've both lost. Newcastle lost to Millwall. Man United took a loss to Newcastle, so Newcastle you'd expect maybe to come out on top. Middlesbrough, Millwall, Plymouth, Man City, okay, 6 games in hand, but they are 23 points off the pace. And by calculations, that 6 games in hand is only worth 18 points. So they're struggling. Manchester City are really, really struggling at this point. They've lost to Man United and to Notts County. That's super awkward. Milton Keynes, Dons, Oldham, Forest, and Oxford there. This should be one of the more competitive leagues because a lot of these clubs are, quite strong clubs. There's a lot of clubs we know as league clubs in here, and only really 2 or 3 big teams in there. But this is shaking out interesting already. Steve Morrison has got himself 11 goals for Millwall. Tom Bradshaw's got 11. Paul Pogba's got himself 10 goals. Matt Ritchie the top performer, Morrison, and then Lee Gregory there. Transfer-wise, you'd expect United to have spent some money, wouldn't you? You'd think United would have spent some money by now. Toby Alderweireld has joined Manchester United. Tarkowski and Schindler we knew had joined Man United. Ruben Neves has joined Man United. Saiz we knew had joined Newcastle. Ekwe Mangala has left Manchester City for Monaco. Glenn Murray has left Brighton for Manchester City, which is an interesting transfer. Curtis Nelson's left Oxford from Newcastle. Stuart Downing we know left. Ben Coker has gone from Southend to Forest. Nelson to Middlesbrough. Anything else big? I thought more players would have left Man United. I thought it was why they were signing so many random players, but interesting they haven't. Darren Bent has joined Peterborough. Gabriel Rosario has joined Maidenhead. Donald McDermott has joined Morecambe. Luke Rooney gone to Oldham. James Collins, defender James Collins, the ex-West Ham defender, has gone to Forest. That's interesting. Larnell Cole, who turns out quite good, to Newport County. Greg Halford to Peterborough. Jake Gosling to Nuneaton is an interesting one on some level. Anyone else they're really jumping out? There's a lot of free transfers been made. Reece Brown to Mansfield. Anyone else big? Paul Caddis gone to MK Dons. Scott Goulbourne gone to Millwall. J. Emmanuel Thomas, who apparently was on a free transfer, has gone to Millwall as well. That's an interesting one. Remy Street to Peterborough. Dimitar Berbatov to Newcastle. That's what we like to see. Dimitar Berbatov showing up. Daniel Boateng to Mansfield. Glenn Johnson's joined Middlesbrough. There we go. There's some names starting to appear down here, but then there are some bigger teams down this end than there are further up, perhaps. Manager movements. You've got to think City have sacked Pep, right? They haven't. Michael Flynn has been replaced by Brian Dean, though, and Harry Wheeler at Maidstone replaced by Dale Brooks. Looking at the North, Sheffield Wednesday walking away with that league. Wolves really not keeping up as you'd expect. West Brom in there, Sheffield United, Wigan, Stoke, Preston. Scunthorpe, Walsall, Sunderland not doing well at all there. Rotherham, Rochdale, Shrewsbury. Salford doing much better than you'd have thought perhaps in this league, but Spennymoor you expected to get rid of. Wolves have gone into administration. They've had 10 points deducted. That's why they're doing so badly. Interesting they've gone into administration though. That we could see them having a bit of a fire sale. That could come up very, very interesting. See what transfers have happened. Ruben Neves went to Man United. That's explained that a little bit. Adrian Mariappa's left Watford for West Brom. Not really much more than a lateral movement. Sam Winnall's gone from Sheffield Wednesday to Swansea. Marco Matthias left Sheffield Wednesday for Maritimo. Jack Watmore has left Portsmouth for West Brom, making some big signings. Rochdale given them Harrison McGee. Christian Burgess has gone from Portsmouth to West Brom. Alex Pearce joining Sunderland. Bobby Grant joining Sheffield United. Anyone else big? Matt Gilks has left Scunthorpe to join Peterborough. Alex Bruce has gone from Wigan to Portsmouth. Interesting movements happening down here. Already interesting movements happening down here. Jake Evans has gone to Wrexham, as we already knew. Anything big down here that demands our attention? New Mark Randler joined Tranmere, I think. Jermaine Granderson apparently joined Wrexham and then retired. Interesting. Couldn't face Wrexham apparently. Ronaldo Pearson, we remember from the Stockport save last year, joined Spennymoor. Has he been playing? Has he been performing? He's been coming off the bench and doing okay. Good to see our old boys doing well. Ben Perkis has joined Salford. Drissa Traore has joined Rochdale. Gabriel Bonlahor to Scunthorpe. Milan Lajkovic has joined Sunderland. Stephen Kolk to West Brom. Anton Rodgers to Salford. Good movements there, really. Some interesting things. It's going to be a long episode. In case you hadn't figured that out already, this is going to be a longer episode than I had possibly hoped. But I wanted to do the experiment thing properly first time, right? Tim Flowers has just been sacked by Solihull, and Jack Ross, who I'd never heard of. I didn't realise he was Sunderland manager, but there we go. Jack Ross has left Sunderland to be replaced by Gus Hiddink. Gus Hiddink is managing in the Vanarama North. These experiments, they throw out some interesting things. Will Grigg is on fire, by the way, leading the scoring charts in the National League North. In the South, West Ham leading the league from Southampton and QPR. Tottenham 2 games in hand, but 8 points behind. They've been handed a loss, presumably by Southampton. Every one of the big teams you think at this level. West Ham lost to Tottenham, so still wide open. Reading, Portsmouth, Watford struggling. Swansea struggling, really. The divide happens exactly where you'd expect it to, though. We're looking at Western Super Metro and Slough going down. Alex Revel of Stevenage, the top scorer. He's doing quite well considering they're 13th. David Wheeler for a team from 6th getting 10 goals is impressive, and Marko Arnautovic, coming in 3rd. Harry Kane, the top performer in the league, but not the top scorer, which is interesting. How many goals has he had so far? He's had 8 goals so far. You'd expect him to kick on and build some form. Issa Diop and Yarmolenko up there as well. Transfer-wise, who's coming into the south? Alderweireld has left. McBurney has left Swansea for Hertha Berlin, who are picking up some big signings from this. Moussa Sissoko has joined Lyonnais. We've got Sebastian Prodel joining Saint Etienne. Okaka joining Lille. Mariappa has joined West Brom. Stefan Johansson has come in to Tottenham. Miguel Britos has gone to Cagliari. Sam Winnell going to Swansea as well. Dennis Adoy going to Tottenham. Few movements happening here, but nothing. Sidi John Barty has gone to Olhanense. I'll learn to speak. Kieran Cadogan has gone to Falkenbergs. Danny Redmond's coming from TNS to QPR, which is interesting because he played. He has been playing. Not the biggest name. You wouldn't think he'd be good enough to get into QPR squad, but there we go. In terms of any freebies that have come through, anyone really jumping out? Danny Bullman going to Wickham on a free. Patrice Evra has joined Reading. Chris Baird has joined QPR. Paul Konchesky has joined Slough. Will Britt, the Gibraltar goalkeeper, has joined Welling. Niall Ranger has gone back to Swindon, which is the news no Swindon fan ever wants to hear. Audrius Lawsis has gone to Wealdstone. Dion Moore to Wealdstone as well. Some good movements going on here, but nothing that super jumps out. Manager movements, nothing. No one has lost a job yet in the National League South. Let's have a quick look at the England squad, because they will have played a couple of games. There will be something that's sort of shaken out of this that will affect the national team, I'm sure. So let's see how that looks. No big surprises in here just yet. No one big appears to have moved abroad. Jesse Lingard still being looked at by Chelsea now rather than Arsenal. Harry Maguire being looked at by Chelsea. But no one big has moved yet. No one big has moved to another country. Declan Rice has made his way into the squad. We're not seeing any big surprises. Sam Johnston's made his way into the England squad, but that's not a huge surprise because he generally tends to find his way in there. No one out of the ordinary just yet. But the under-21s, anything interesting? There's a Boreham Wood player in there. Ellery Balcom has gone in there as well. Esri Konsa has gone in at the Brentford player Enrico Henry from Brentford. Ronaldo Vieira from Sampdoria, who I've genuinely never heard of, but apparently played for Leeds. He has gone in to the under-21s. Anyone else big? Seeing Jadon Sancho and Reece Nelson playing their trade in the under-21s. Patrick Roberts on loan at Girona. He has made his way into the team as well. The 20s, I'm guessing, haven't changed a lot. No one's super. Jack Walton from Barnsley may be a surprise in there. George McEachran might be a small surprise. Caelan Hines potentially a surprise, playing for Gwertha Firth. But nothing big. Was Keenan Davis wanted by someone? There's a bunch of loans, it is. So that's not changed a great deal. And in here, we're seeing Bognor Regis players making the under-19 squad. Bury players are in there. We've got Rio Griffiths from Olympique Lyonnais, who is interesting. Former Tottenham youth player. He's also made the squad. But there we go. There's very little movement so far. So let's come back for the end of the season and we'll see how things are looking then.
Moments later.
So here it is, lads, the end of the season. And yeah, let's see how things all shook out. I think there's been a few managers move. Big Mark Jones there, still struggling to hold on to his job. But how are things actually looking here in England? We've got the Premier Division. Arsenal are, of course, champions, 108 points. They've gone the season unbeaten, another season of invincibles. Birmingham, Villa and Blackburn getting themselves into the Champions League, a 9-point gap between them and Barnsley, who've made it into the Europa League. Bath, Boston and Altrincham are the ones who've gone down. Ashton United saving themselves brilliantly there, which is always good to see a team surviving. It's going to be interesting as things go on. Ashton, obviously, by staying up, they've got themselves a fairly big wedge. Let's have a quick look. They've got themselves £7 million by staying up, which if they invest that properly, could actually keep them up for a while. Billericay will have made significantly more. They already had quite a bit of money, so they're doing okay as well. They might push on early. We've got Aubameyang and Djukovic as joint top scorers. Billy Key also getting in there. Aubameyang, Mesut Ozil and Mkhitaryan are the top players in the division. In terms of transfers, let's see if there's anything here we didn't see before. Yannick Carrasco has joined Arsenal. Mustafi has gone to Bayern Munich. Kieran Tierney has come into Arsenal. Adam Lallana has come into Arsenal. El Neni has left for Shakhtar. Duda, I think we already saw come in. Nacho Monreal has gone to Shanghai in China. Ben Brereton has joined Blackburn for $7 million beginning of the transfer window. Ivan Strinic has come from Milan to Aston Villa, which will have been really important in their push. Daniel Sturridge has gone to Arsenal. Emiliano Insua has come to Aston Villa, as has Ben Godfrey from Norwich. Nacho Mendes has come from Sporting Gijon to Arsenal. Arsenal, we already saw, sold Jenkinson to Sassuolo. Icefield came into Blackburn. Tom Bradshaw left. Christian Doige has gone to Bolton. Cauley Woodrow to Barnsley, that's interesting. Harry Pickering to Barnsley is interesting. Ray Matthews to Bolton's quite interesting. Some good signings here. Did we get any more big free transfers? Nicky Hunt making a move to Bath. That came up. Anything else? Chris Eagles has gone to Barrow. It wasn't that long ago he was playing in the Premier League, so really good signing for Barrow. We've got anything else big come out of January? Adal Manuel, not really a big signing. No other really huge names moving. We've seen Malang star Dennis Turk and Dennis Mann join Aston Villa on loan. Dre Wright joined Barnsley on loan, and Grimshaw and Kukuc have joined Accrington. Guendouzi has gone on loan to Spartak. Anything else big coming in? A few players out. Nothing hugely inspiring in. I think Burton in the league below. That's not a huge move. Nothing big there. Manager-wise, this is what we've missed. Just the one. Phil Parkinson leaving Altrincham and being replaced by Michael Brown at the end of the season. That's quite a straightforward one. Right, into the Championship. We can see there that Burnley have won the playoff final, but who's won the league? Chelsea, of course. They lost one game. That was to Burnley. Bournemouth getting the other automatic. 4 teams with over 100 points. You've got to feel bad for Brighton. Cardiff there just with 97. It could have gone so differently for them. Bristol City up there. But no one really overly surprising, I don't think. Bristol Rovers over Bradford might be a little bit of a surprise. Chippenham didn't quite save themselves. They've gone down with Bradford, Park Avenue and Chester. Braintree saving themselves. Chris Wood, Mauro Baselli and Diediu, top goal scorers. Hazard, Knocker and Wood there as the top players. Transfer-wise, was there anything big that happened during January that's worth us noting? Matteo Musacchio has gone from Milan to Chelsea. We've got Tom Cleverley from Watford to Burnley. Miguel Almiron has gone from Atlanta to Chelsea. Callum Patterson eventually joined Burnley from Cardiff. Ryan Woods has gone from Brentford. Jed Wallace joined Burnley from Millwall. Oliver Norwood left Brighton for Sheffield United. That's a bit of a drop down. Taras Romanchuk joined Brighton from Jagiellonia. That's the one. Raul Rodriguez left Tierhan for Brighton as well. Few moves. Leighton Baines to Cardiff is quite an interesting one. Christian Alvarez to Chelsea. Rui Pedro to Bristol City. Phil Barsley moved to back to Sunderland. There's an interesting move for you. Andreas Grangqvist has joined Brighton from Helsingborgs. Few interesting. Boaz Myhill has gone to Bristol City, where you'd assume he'd be first choice or thereabouts. He has been. So a few moves there worth this kind of attention. A lot of money spent actually in this division. Stephen Bywater left Burton for Oxford, but he's about 104, I think, at this point. 37, close enough. Any freebies that are worth us mentioning? That Dave Neeskens, the lesser-known Dutch hero, left Braintree, and that's about it, I think, for all the big signings. Nothing there. Rowan Ince, we missed earlier, actually going to Bristol Rovers, same with Stephen Kelly. Otherwise, nothing huge. A few loans. Stefano Denswell came to Burnley. Cartabia came to Brighton. Pelkas came to Brighton. Livakovic left Chelsea on loan to Espanyol, and Doniel Malin joined Brighton. Christopher Olsen for Cardiff. Mauro Baselli. He can't be a young man anymore. Mauro Baselli. Oh, he got some goals though, didn't he? Mauro Baselli got himself 28 goals. I saw that earlier. It didn't register. He wasn't, normally there. He's joined Burnley though. Gitshire joined Brentford on loan. Any other big ones? Rasmus Falk to Burnley. Few interesting moves there. A few interesting moves happening. Manager-wise, we've got just the one, I think. Bernard Morley leaving. Oh, we saw that. Bernard Morley leaving to be replaced by Mark Yates. Okay, to League One. Let's see who's coming up to League One this season. Derby have won the playoff final, which Fulham are staying down another year in League One. That's interesting. Everton and Crystal Palace winning the automatic spots. Fulham, though, still getting over 100 points. Exeter managed to consolidate their good run of form, got into the playoffs with 89. Same with Fleetwood. Doncaster missing out on the playoffs and goal difference. Ebbsfleet surviving and above Crewe and Forest Green. That's interesting as well. FC United, Concord, East Thurrock and Curzon Ashton are the teams that have gone down this season. Niasse, Stockley and Kamara being the top goal scorers there. Transfer-wise, who's come big is the question we're asking. Connor Wickham joined left Crystal Palace for Galatasaray. Fabrizio left Fulham for Fluminense. We've seen I think we saw Corley Woodrow going to Barnsley. We did. Connor Chaplin from Portsmouth to Coventry. That's semi-interesting. Callum Guy going to Blackpool again. Semi-interesting. Julian Speroni left. Oh, we saw he left. That was just before the bit where we came back mid-season. Nothing big there. Any loans that are of big interest happening? A lot of frees. Not really. Okay. Move that back up. We'll save us some time in a second. Right, and then if we look at the manager movements past January, nothing at all. No managers did anything past January. Okay, League 2. Ipswich have beaten Hull in the playoff final, so we know they're up. Leeds made it in there as well, got knocked out by Ipswich. We've got Leeds and we've got Hull staying down. Liverpool, Leicester and Huddersfield also going up automatically. 6 teams with over 100 points. Lincoln coming in just shy, which is a really good showing from Lincoln. Gillingham, Leighton Orient, Grimsby, Fylde doing quite well there as the best of the smaller teams. A lot of non-league teams in this division. It was always going to be a bit of a gulf. Jamie Vardy has got himself the top goal scorer award. Mo Salah just behind him, and Patrick Bamford coming in there, as we see Firmino, Mane and Mooney as the top players. Transfer-wise, who made big moves in this division? Adam Lallana we saw left for Arsenal. Matty James left Leicester for Hertha Berlin. Andy King left Leicester for Trabzonspor. Lazar Markovic left Liverpool for Schalke. Jakupovic has left Leicester for Zurich. Okazaki left Leicester for Spurs. That's interesting, outside the usual transfer window. So teams taking advantage of the fact that in the non-league you have a slightly extended transfer window. Pablo Hernandez left Leicester for Sporting Gijon. A lot of players leaving the country. Ethan Ebanks-Landell leaving Wolves to join Leeds. Conor Randall leaving Liverpool to join Leeds. Will Keane going from Hull to West Brom. He may well have had a good season for himself after leaving. Got 4 goals in 11 games. That's not a bad return. So a few movements there. That's good to see. Loan-wise, anything special going anywhere? A few big teams here you might expect to see something big going out loan-wise. Nothing obvious. Calvin Keller went to Dundalk and Larouci went to Borgenbu. No, nothing big. No big surprises just yet on the transfer front. And manager-wise, anyone left in January? No one at all. No one making big management jumps. That's interesting to see. Manchester City went up through the playoffs in the National League, which means Manchester United won it. Newcastle and Middlesbrough and Millwall staying down to fight out for another season. That's going to be very interesting. Maidstone and Eton, Maidenhead and Oxford City going down. Bradshaw, Morrison and Pogba as the top scorers in the division. De Bruyne, Sane and Ritchie as the top players. Transfer-wise, we've seen in January Marouane Fellaini has joined Shakhtar. Danilo's left Manchester City for Jiangsu. Victor Lindelof left Manchester United for Lille. Marcos Rojo left Man United for Bordeaux. So Man United having a bit of a fire sale. George Saville off from Millwall to Middlesbrough. Ben Brereton leaving Forest to go to Blackburn. I think we already saw Kieran Clark going from Newcastle to Fenerbahce. Florian Lejeune leaving Newcastle for Young Boys. Carl Darlow leaves Newcastle for Sassuolo. A lot of players going to Sassuolo. Jed Wallace left Millwall for Burnley there. Ben Godfrey's gone from Norwich to Villa. Manquillo has gone from Newcastle to Genoa. A few interesting ones. Nathan Byrne from Wigan to Newcastle, quite interesting. We already saw the weird Glenn Murray to City transfer. Did he actually play? He did play a few games. Interesting. Dimitar Berbatov left Newcastle and joined Nuremberg in the transfer window. That's quite strange. But I'm glad he's found his feet. Pavel Vosalek has joined Norwich from QPR as well. Again, another March transfer. This is interesting in that players are still making these moves. Marek Stech going to Orlando City too. Dennis Serbany going to Bochum. A few players moving in January. Nathaniel Mendes-Lang going from Cardiff to Millwall there, and again, a lot of little tiny transfers, just little transfers, but enough to get the market in. No one's been shy about trying to improve their squad. No one has given up on trying to make something. Andreas Pereira there left Man United for Santos on loan as well. No one's been shy about trying to bring in players and improving themselves, and no management movements there as well. So very much keeping the manager movements to December at the latest so far. Wolves have won the playoff final with West Brom going up, which means Stoke, Sheffield Wednesday, Sheffield and Wigan are staying down, as well as Preston. No teams over 100 points to us. It's a much cleaner league, much closer league. Wolves, of course, actually did score 106 points, but they had 10 deducted for administration, so getting promoted will help them immensely. Ben Woodburn has got himself the top goal-scoring nod there. Dwight Gale with 14 behind him, and Nuiu from Sheffield Wednesday. Patrizio, Moutinho and Kipre are the top players there. Transfer-wise, we've seen Benica Fobe leave Wolves for Stoke. We have seen Ryan Woods leave Brentford for Stoke. Stoke making some big transfer moves, doing some big business. Adrian Mariappa went from Watford to West Brom, I think we saw before. I think we've seen Norwood. Bakary Sakho has gone from West Brom to Basel. Courtney House has joined Sunderland from Wolves. Lucas Yao joined Sunderland from Sheffield Wednesday. Jordan Atiba joining West Brom from Reading. Pelu Pesse has joined Sunderland from Sheffield Wednesday. Few players making moves there. Marco Matias going to Maritimo. Liam Roberts going to San Jose. There are players on the move in this league. That's always a thing when you experience these. You just see players moving you wouldn't necessarily expect to move, making moves they wouldn't necessarily be expected to make. Manager movements. We've seen Tim Flowers was finally replaced by Anthony Wright, who I think was fired as Swansea under-18s boss or something. So that's also there. If you want to see any of these leagues, by the way, as I'm going through them quite quickly, feel free to pause the video and you'll be able to see what's going on. West Ham won the playoffs. Southampton won the title. So Tottenham and Watford are going to spend another year in the Vanarama National South. Reading have done well to finish 5th above QPR and Swansea. Portsmouth doing well up there with Southend. Swindon finishing 10th, which is always a surprise. And Yeovil finishing 11th. The rest of the league split as you'd expect. St Albans, Truro and Weston-super-Mare, the guys going down. You've got to feel bad for them because they would probably be expected to stay up normally. Troy Deeney, Alex Ravel and Danny Ings, the top scorers. Harry Kane, I can never remember this guy's name. Elyounoussi and Yarmolenko playing the best in the league. Transfer-wise, January saw Tom Cleverley move, as we saw Winston Reid go from West Ham to Bordeaux. We saw Vincent Janssen go to Celtic from Tottenham. Mikhail Antonio joined Sampdoria. Maya Yoshida has joined Fenerbahce. We have seen Andy Carroll go to Kievo. George Kevin Nkudu has left Tottenham for Seattle. Filip Stuparovic has gone from Vozdavac to Watford. There's an incoming one. Jose Holebas has gone from Watford to Bruges. Fernando Llorente has gone from Tottenham to Krasnodar for an absolute bargain price there, even at 34, £750,000, rising to £1 million seems like good money for him. Nathan Thompson from Portsmouth to Vancouver. Portsmouth have been a bit of a selling club, but that might bode well for them in the long term. Ben Coker from Southend to Forest. A few moves there worth us kind of noticing. James Dunn has left Swindon, and nothing makes me happier than saying those words. James Dunn leaving Swindon, beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. It should be encouraged in real life. Yeah, a few moves there. Nothing. Let's see how Patrice Evra did in his season in the National League. Only played 10 games. Wasn't really a regular. You'd think he might make a move at some point to somewhere where he'll play a bit more or retire. It'll be one or the other. See how Will Britt, the Gibraltar international, did. Only played 7 games, conceded 11 goals. Not really his season. Okay, that is pretty much the big moves. I think nothing overly jumping out here. No. Okay, right, a couple more things that I need to take a look at because I thought they might be of interest. Let's go back to England and the Premier Division. Let's just have a quick look at the award winners. Let's do that. So, let's not worry about Player of the Month too much, although Gozi Ugwu won the April Player of the Month award. 5 goals in 4 appearances. I don't know how they finished the league off, but you've got to assume they didn't play any big teams in that run. Not really. That was sort of what I suspected it would look like. He's got himself the Player of the Month award, though, so we cannot knock him for that. Let's look at the Of the Year awards. The Golden Glove award has gone to Andre Moreira with 26 clean sheets. David Raya and Ben Alnwick just behind him. We've got the Footballer of the Year award to Mesut Ozil. 15 goals and 37 appearances. You thought he'd have got a bit more in a league that looks like this. Manager of the year, Unai Emery, obviously winning the league in his first season with a 92% win ratio. Player of the year, Mesut Ozil, makes sense. Young player, Andre Moreira, the goalkeeper, that makes sense as the best goalkeeper in the league. That's not what I wanted it to do, and now it's going to random click mode. Beautiful. Right, we'll get this back on track. It's fine. Top goal scorers we saw Aubameyang, Djukovic, Billy Key from Accrington making a surprise appearance as the third best goal scorer in the Premier League. Let's look at the players' team of the year. Andre Moreira in goal, Maxime Collin as right back, Charlie Mulgrew at Blackburn as centre half next to Tuan Zebe at Aston Villa, Derek Williams at left back, Henrik Mkhitaryan, Ozil, Jack Grealish and Jacques Magoma playing as the midfield in that team. Aubameyang and Djukovic up top in the player of the year. That's not a bad team of the year right there. Let's look at the Sky Bet Championship ones. Manager of the year, Maurizio Sarri at Chelsea. Player of the year, we've got Eden Hazard. We've got the young player of the year, Chris Mepham of Brentford. 39 appearances, a 7.27 rating. That's not bad going at all. Top goal scorer, I believe we saw was Chris Wood. We did. And the team of the year, who's in the team of the year? Tom Heaton is the goalkeeper in the team of the year. Adam Smith at right back, Shane Duffy, Steve Cook and Charlie Daniels. Largely what you'd expect, I think. Willian, Kovacevic, Proper and Eden Hazard as the midfield, and Wood and Baselli up top. So that's that team of the year. Let's go down a division. Manager of the year for Sky Bet League 1 was Marco Silva at Everton. The player of the year, Idrissa Gueye of Everton. Top goal scorer, Oumar Niasse, followed by Jayden Stockley in a really good performance. And then let's have a look at the team of the year. We've got Jordan Pickford in goal, Jayden Bogle at right back, Kurt Zuma and Callum Chambers at the centre halves, Lucas Digne is the left back, and Ross Townsend on the right wing, Gueye and Kearney in the middle, Zaha on the left, Niasse and Vieto up top. So that's as expected, really. The top three teams and the 3 or 4 teams in the division providing the entire thing. Right, and in League 2, the manager of the year was Jurgen Klopp. The player of the year, Alisson Becker of Liverpool, the goalkeeper. The top goal scorer, Jamie Vardy, having a party, followed by Mo Salah and Patrick Bamford. No big surprises there. Team of the year, Alisson Becker in goal, Todd Kane at right back, Maguire and Gomez at centre half and Stephen Kingsley at left back. Jarrod Bowen and Ndidi, Emir Hughes and Mark Albrighton in midfield, which is an interesting selection of players there. Jamie Vardy and Firmino up top. Firmino, who of course couldn't make the top scorer list, but somehow has ended up in the team of the year as a striker. Just an observation. Right, the National League. Who's been manager of the year in the National League? It's of course Pep Guardiola, despite Man United winning the league. Rafa Benitez coming in second, Jose Mourinho coming in third. Player of the season, we have got Paul Pogba as the player of the season. There's no team of the season in this division apparently. And the top goal scorer is Tom Bradshaw, followed by Steve Morrison and Paul Pogba there. In the National League North, the top goal scorer was Ben Woodburn, Dwight Gale and Adeniyi, following up. Manager of the year, Darren Moore of West Brom. And player of the season, João Moutinho. And in the Conference South, our player of the year was Mohamed El-Yunusi, because he knows I can't pronounce his name. Mark Hughes, manager of the year, Pellegrini and Paul Clement following him up. Close order with Troy Deeney, Alex Ravel and Danny Ings as the top goal scorers. Let's have a quick look at the England squad, just so we can... I might have got that wrong. No, that was... I got confused by seeing East Thurrock in there. It does make sense. Let's look at the England squad. Let's see how that all looks. No big surprises, but a lot of players here wanted. A lot of players potentially getting themselves some big money moves. and I'm guessing they're not all domestic. Phil Jones, wanted by Aston Villa, going back to the Premier League. Harry Maguire, Aston Villa, reinforcing. James Tarkowski, wanted by Aston Villa as reinforcements. Ryan Bertrand, wanted by Bournemouth. John Stones, Arsenal and Chelsea are fighting over him. Eric Dyer, wanted by Chelsea. Ben Chilwell at Bournemouth, potentially. Harry Kane, potentially either Chelsea or Real Madrid. And Marcus Rashford at Aston Villa, potentially. That could be very interesting in terms of, we've got the two of the teams in the Champions League making some big moves for players. We've got one of the teams coming up making big moves for players. Ryan Sessegnon's wanted by Bournemouth as well. Adi Luckman's wanted by Newcastle on loan. Calvert-Lewin is wanted by Bournemouth and Bolton again. Teams looking to build for potential European challenges next year. Joe Sparr is wanted from Burton by Burnley. Again, another team looking to build something for the future, take advantage of the situation. The other thing I think we should probably take a look at is going to be the Cups, because we want to know who else is going into Europe, I suppose. So the FA Cup, won by Liverpool over Manchester City. Let's have a look at the competition tree, if I can remember where to find it. Why can't I remember where to find it? There. Tree. There we go. Let's look from the 5th round. No big surprises there in the FA Cup. Oxford and Bristol Rovers playing each other, but of course getting smashed by Chelsea. But Liverpool winning the FA Cup from League 2 is interesting. The Carabao Cup, also won by Liverpool. It means Liverpool are playing European football next season. That should have been marked, shouldn't it? Is that marked on the league table and I missed it? It wasn't, but they are going to be playing European football next season. That's going to make their next season harder. The Community Shield was won by Chelsea, of course it was. Checker Trade Trophy won by Sunderland over Southend. Interesting that, actually, because the Checker Trade Trophy doesn't normally feature teams from the Conference North. Let's see how that was worked out, because that's quite interesting. All the under-23 sides from the former Premier League clubs got kind of thrown in there, which is unusual, because obviously they're supposed to be Premier League under-23 squads, so the game didn't understand how to make that change. Despite having to play their under-23s, Wolves still did quite well. Southern section, again, all groups will go there. Tottenham doing quite well with their under-23s playing. Exeter doing as well as you'd expect for a team who, you know, they had a good season all round. But yeah, unusual to see teams from the Conference North and South involved in that, but hopefully that'll fix itself next season, you would hope. The FA Trophy won by Manchester United. There's a phrase you never thought you'd hear. In fact, it's not been won by Manchester United. Has it not concluded yet? Surely that's finished. Right? Oh, I see what's happened. Yeah, Manchester United have won the FA Trophy over Newcastle. That's what happened. I was so confused. Why was that on the semi-final? Answers on a postcard. So that's the rundown. That's the rundown of the first season of this experiment. We will come back 5 seasons from now in the next episode. I'm not going to do it now. Don't panic. I know I've already had you sitting for over an hour watching this, and I thank you very much. But that is pretty much the rundown for this episode. So, thank you very much for watching, guys. Like I said, come back for the next episode. My name is ChasingLamely. Follow me on Twitter at ChasingLamely. Follow and the subscribe and like buttons are below. Please hit those. It helps people see what I'm doing. Same as the comments. Please leave comments. I like replying to comments, and they help people find us so we do more stuff. There's also Patreon below should you feel so inclined, and if you look on my Twitter you should be able to find a link to my new podcast within a couple of days, so follow me on Twitter. You'll enjoy the podcast, I promise. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I don't want to keep you too much longer. Until next time, I've been Chasing Lamely. Have a good one. See you soon.